Some treasures are too big to stay hidden forever. In 2015, scientists found the wreck of the Spanish galleon the San Jose, a ship carrying a treasure worth billions. But that was only the start of this story. The battle over its fortune has been as fierce as the one that doomed the ship to the ocean's floor, and it is still not over. On today's episode of the Infographics Show, we're uncovering the story of the San Jose, the most expensive shipwreck ever. The ocean depths hide countless secrets, lurking just out of reach, and if you want to find one of them, you call the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, or WHOI. This American nonprofit has located debris from Air France Flight 447, and back in the 80s they were part of the team that found the wreck of the Titanic. Now they were called in to hunt the holy grail of shipwrecks, the San Jose. The ship went down in 1708 off the coast of Colombia, and it was said to be laden with $17 billion worth of gold, silver, and jewels. But it has been evading treasure hunters for centuries. One of those scientists looking for the San Jose was Mike Purcell. Each week he scanned the seafloor off Colombia with autonomous underwater drones, technology he helped develop at WHOI. But the search wasn't going well. Purcell knew the Colombian coast was littered with wrecks, the ships scattered every few miles along the ocean floor. And then one day, the sonar picked up something unusual, something that stood out. Mike and his team sent the drone to take photos. When they crowded around the computer to see the feed, they could not believe their eyes. It was a ship, a massive ship. Hundreds of teacups lay strewn across the seafloor. And then came the cannons, then the anchor, and most amazingly of all, a huge pile of gold coins. The weight of their discovery hit them. They immediately called the president of Colombia, telling him the good news. Pretty soon after, it was announced that the Colombian government would launch a full salvage expedition to retrieve the treasure. But nearly 10 years later, nothing has moved forward. And there's one reason why. Everyone wants this treasure. Who it belongs to, if it's ever salvaged, remains a question still without an answer. The dark, winding tale of the Spanish galleon San Jose starts in 1698, when the ship was launched as part of the Spanish treasure fleet. The San Jose was a state-of-the-art vessel for the time. It weighed over 1,000 tons and it was made out of iron-reinforced wood. The ship had 3 masts and 64 brass cannons, each engraved with images of dolphins. It was the 17th century version of a rocket built to go to Mars, so it naturally was the treasure fleet's flagship. The San Jose sailed with 3 warships and 14 merchant vessels. The ships roamed the far reaches of the Spanish Empire, from Seville to Antwerp, Africa to the Philippines, Japan to South America and back again. They established the world's first permanent trade route across the Pacific, carrying spices, textiles, gold, and countless other goods seized from Spain's colonies. The treasure fleet was a key part of the development of the modern economy, given how important cross-Pacific shipping is today. But the fleet wasn't just used for commerce. It also played an important role in a long and bloody war that kicked off in 1701, the War of Spanish Succession. The conflict, which would last 13 years, began with the death of Charles II, the last of the Spanish Habsburgs. He had no children and no clear heir. His death left a power vacuum that triggered the closest thing Europe had to a world war before trains or aeroplanes were invented. On one side stood Philippe of Anjou, the French prince nominated by Charles himself, with this claim backed by none other than his grandfather Louis XIV. On the other, Archduke Charles of Austria, whose claim was backed by the British Empire and the Holy Roman Empire. When Philippe took the throne, Britain and the Holy Roman Empire saw it as Spain giving France an unfair advantage, especially with access to the lucrative Pacific trade route. That made the treasure fleet a prime target in the war, and in 1708 a British squadron struck the fleet off of Cartagena, Colombia. In April of that year, the British squadron, the Expedition, Kingston, Portland, and Vulture, stopped for supplies in the Rosario Islands just 30 miles from Cartagena. The squadron was commanded by Admiral of the White, Sir Charles Wagner. But the Spanish at Cartagena quickly spotted them and they sent warnings to the treasure fleet. Despite the alert, Fleet Commander José Fernández de Santillan chose to set sail on May 28th, and he knew he might cross paths with Wagner's squadron. But hurricane season was closing in, and the ships in Havana wouldn't wait for him forever. It was a decision that would prove disastrous. Thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Heroes of History, the only game that lets you build a city, summon historical legends, and lead Cleopatra and Einstein into battle. Heroes of History combines civilization-style strategy with real-time battles and gacha-style hero summons. It's the only game where you can put Blackbeard, Tesla, and Boudica all into your lineup. One minute you're optimizing your city layout, the next you're watching Mozart and Hercules throw hands in the arena. But the best part? No base raids, which means no pressure. You play at your pace and your city is safe while you're offline. And right now is the perfect time to jump in. The first anniversary event just dropped, and it's packed with exclusive returning heroes like Florence Nightingale, Oda Nobunaga, and Yi Sun-si. Complete event tasks, unlock antimatter, and spin the time portal for a shot at powerful 4- and 5-star heroes. Oh, and they're giving out a free anniversary gift too. Also, complete daily, weekly, and seasonal tasks to earn progress. To earn the maximum amount of arcane antimatter, you need to finish all Season Pass tasks. So download Heroes of History using my link, or scan the QR code, and make sure to use the promo code 1YearStart to get 1 legendary antimatter, plus scrolls and food to level up fast. That code's only valid until October 31st, so download the game now and grab it while you still can. On June 7th, the fleet reached Isla de Baru and set anchor. The next day, they saw Wagner's squadron looming on the horizon. The British were outnumbered 4-1, but since most of the Spanish ships were merchant vessels, they weren't really made for heavy combat. The British squadron, on the other hand, was built for war. Together, their 4 ships carried over 200 heavy cannons, compared to the Spanish fleet's 172. The treasure fleet formed up in defensive positions, but the British ignored the smaller merchant ships. Their sights were set on the galleons. That's where the real money was. The San Joaquin was attacked first at 5 p.m., but with help from a smaller escort managed to break away and retreat safely to Cartagena. After an hour of fighting, the British ship expedition closed in on the San Jose, preparing to board. When the 2 vessels were just 200 feet apart, the San Jose suddenly exploded. The most likely explanation is that a British cannon shot struck the powder magazines, detonating them and engulfing the San Jose in flames. She was carrying the richest treasure of the fleet's 3 galleons, and when she sank to the bottom, nearly all of her 600 crew went with her. Only 11 survived, the rest were lost to Davy Jones's locker. The battle raged on, and the British captured the last galleon, the Santa Cruz, but their prize proved disappointing. Instead of government treasure, it carried only 13 chests of privately owned silver. By the dawn, the British had caught up with the ships fleeing back toward Cartagena. Most made it safely to port, but the Concepcion ran aground on Baru Island, where her crew set her ablaze. This naval battle, which was known as Wagner's Action, ended with a decisive British victory. They only reported 14 casualties, while the Spanish lost over 1,000. But even though they were victorious, San Jose and her treasure would forever be the one that got away. In Colombia, the ship became one of the country's most enduring legends, even featuring as a major plot point in Gabriel Garcia Marquez's classic novel Love in the Time of Cholera. It's not hard to see why the treasure has captured imaginations for centuries. Based on the cargo of the San Joaquin, historians estimate that the San Jose carried 11 million pesos in gold coins, a haul worth the equivalent of $17 billion today. Centuries passed and the legend only grew. And then, in 1980, a private group called Sea Search Armada, or SSA, secured permission from the Colombian government to scour the continental shelf for the San Jose. Sea Search Armada raised millions from investors, and they used the money to scan the seafloor near where the San Jose had gone down. They claimed to have found the San Jose and proposed splitting the treasure, 35% for Sea Search Armada, 65% for Colombia. But the Colombian government wasn't having it. Officials argued that the wreck SSA had found wasn't the San Jose at all, and even if it was, since it lay in Colombian waters, the treasure was theirs to keep. The arguing continued back and forth until in 1984 they passed a law through Parliament that gave the state the right to any treasure found in Colombian waters. SSA were made to accept the Colombian government's new terms, a 5% finder's fee, taxed at 45%, and it wasn't what they'd hoped for. Sure, the payout would be decent, but nowhere near enough to match the work required if the wreck really was the San Jose. SSA took the matter to court, and in 1994 the new salvage laws were struck down as unconstitutional. In 2007, the Colombian Supreme Court declared that any treasure found in Colombian waters would be split with the government 50-50. Sea Search Armada tried to sue again in American courts, once in 2011 and again in 2015, but both cases were dismissed. And this brings us back to 2015, when the Hui expedition took the first grainy photos of the piles and piles of gold coins. In an interview with NPR, President Juan Manuel Santos, who was in office when the San Jose was discovered, said getting the news felt like a scene straight out of a movie. Ironically, Santos admitted he never believed in the legend itself, even as treasure hunters kept knocking on his door for permission to search. That all changed in November 2015 with a phone call at 2 in the morning. One of his cabinet ministers was on the line apologizing for waking him, but he really had to see this. President Santos was overjoyed when he saw the photos. Even more so because, unlike Sea Search Armada, Woods Hole had worked directly with the Colombian government, and that meant far less room for legal disputes. Since it was found with Colombian money, it was Colombia's discovery. And that's backed up by a legal principle known as the law of fines, which states that whoever discovers a shipwreck can claim its cargo, so long as the vessel has truly been abandoned. But many argue the San Jose was never abandoned at all. The San Jose sunk with all but 11 of its crew still aboard, meaning that the wreck is now a war grave, and because it was flying the Spanish flag at the time it sank, it means it falls under something called sovereign immunity. It's a principle that protects state-owned vessels from being sued in foreign courts. In short, a naval ship remains under its own country's jurisdiction no matter where in the world it sinks. Since the discovery of the galleon, the Spanish government has released a public statement claiming that as the ship is a mass grave of Spanish citizens, it cannot be subject to commercial exploitation. According to them, it's an important piece of Spanish culture and history. To take all the gold and leave the rest would be massively disrespectful to the men that died when the boat sank. Spain has been able to win cases on these grounds before. The Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes, another galleon sunk by the British Navy, was discovered by Odyssey Marine Exploration off the coast of Florida in 2007. The explorers found over 500,000 gold and silver coins worth around $500 million. At first, they planned to keep the loot for themselves. But then Spain found out. A 5-year-long legal battle ensued, which Spain won on the grounds of sovereign immunity. And in 2012, the explorers were forced to fork over their treasures. On the surface, letting Spain claim the wreck might sound like a no-brainer, but if we're gonna get technical about who really owns the treasure, we need to talk about the people Spain stole it from in the first place. Enter Tata Samuel Flores Cruz, a representative of the Caracara Nation, the indigenous people of Potosi, Bolivia. In the 1990s, Tata Samuel, like many others, became fascinated by Titanic documentaries. One of them mentioned the ongoing search for the San Jose, sparking a realization. His people had a direct connection to that legendary treasure. Potosi is home to one of the biggest silver deposits in the world and has historically been a hub for gold and silver mining. Much of the gold and silver that filled the San Jose came from Potosi, mined by the ancestors of Tata Samuel and his people. Since countless indigenous people died in the mines without ever seeing any benefit, Tata Samuel argues that the treasure should go to the people of Potosi, a form of compensation, and he has evidence to back up this claim. The Caracara are detailed record keepers. There are historical documents kept by the community that detail exactly how much gold and silver was taken from Potosi by the Spanish. And not just on the San Jose either. As Mike Purcell said earlier, the Atlantic is dotted with Spanish shipwrecks, and many of them were also carrying gold mined by native laborers in Potosi. Other indigenous groups from around Colombia and Bolivia have joined Tata Samuel's case over the years. If they can take that to court, it sets a strong precedent for indigenous rights across South America. Tata Samuel has met with government officials in Colombia, and they seem somewhat open to his proposal. As for the Spanish, Tata Samuel understandably could not care less about them. He says that if they're so concerned with the ship as a historical artifact, then they can take the cannons or whatever wood is still left. So far, you've got the Colombian government claiming the treasure because the wreck lies off of their coast. Spain insists it's theirs because it was once their warship, and the Caracara people demand it since their ancestors mined the gold. Already, it's a mess. And then in 2022, Sea Search Armada resurfaced with another lawsuit. To understand why, you need to know that almost as soon as the San Jose was found, its coordinates were classified and kept as a tightly guarded state secret. And that makes sense. Imagine how humiliating it would be if someone swooped in and stole the treasure while governments were still arguing over it. But the fact that the location is secret is also the key to SSA's new lawsuit. This time, they took the case to the Permanent Court of Arbitration, a court specifically meant to resolve international disputes. Their argument is that the Colombian government is going against the free trade agreement between their country and the United States. SSA's lawyers claim that the San Jose wreck found in 2015 was the same site that their team had discovered back in 1981, and that the Colombian government has been lying to everyone, even changing salvage laws to avoid paying SSA their 50%. Colombia maintains it wasn't the same ship. According to them, Sea Search Armada's search zone in the 1980s was miles wide and littered with wrecks, so even if they did find something in the same general area, it likely wasn't the San Jose. SSA's lawyers argued that the ocean currents move debris around and they scatter remains, which is exactly what makes shipwrecks so hard to pin down in the first place. In 1981, the San Jose wasn't in the exact location where it was blown up, and in the 40 years since then, it's probably moved again. The legal case surrounding the San Jose is still ongoing as of 2025, And it's really anyone's guess who the rights to the ship and the treasure will go to. Considering the San Jose was blown up in a war fought over control of Spain's trade routes, it's almost poetic that its legacy is a centuries-long battle over who gets to claim its treasure. It shows how much the map of the world has shifted in just a few centuries. What's Colombia today was Spain in the 1700s, and before that it was Caracara land. And that makes the question of who truly owns the San Jose's treasure a legal and moral minefield. If you're wondering why no eccentric billionaire has just tried to buy the San Jose from Colombia, the answer is legal. Sea Search Armada still has an injunction, and the wreck itself is guarded by a Colombian Navy patrol to keep the scavengers away. Some lost sea treasures are protected by dangerous weather, sharks, or old pirate curses. This time it's something even scarier: infinite legal red tape. The sinking of San Jose left behind a legend, but one maritime disaster still captures imaginations today. Watch The Sinking of the Titanic hour by hour to see how it all unfolded, or click on this video instead.